Hello, this is Domenico again with Easynomics, and we're going to look at the short-run Phillips curve. This will be our second and last scenario, and we will be looking at a deflationary gap in the monetarist model and its impacts on the short run and ultimately on the long-run Phillips curve. In the previous video, we talked about the short-run Phillips curve that assumes that there is a trade-off between unemployment and inflation, and that they have a negative relationship in that they move in opposite directions. So if we see unemployment rising, then inflation should be falling, and vice versa. So that's the assumption. And in the long run, we see that that trade-off is broken. That negative relationship between the two is broken. So let's go ahead and illustrate this. All right, so graph A is illustrating the short-run Phillips curve, our SRPC1, and the long-run Phillips curve that is perfectly inelastic. And the long-run Phillips curve relates to the long-run aggregate supply curve in that they are representing the natural rate of unemployment, which is the long-run average level of unemployment, and that differs for each nation. But in the United States, over the last several decades, their average level of unemployment is about 5%. So that's considered their full employment level or their natural rate of unemployment. And the long-run Phillips curve is standing at that point, that natural rate of unemployment at 5%. We've seen this before, this graph. So we have our monetarist model. We're tracking or measuring real GDP on the x-axis and the price level on the y-axis. We have the intersection of 81, SRS1, and LRS1 at point A, which provides an equilibrium price level at PL1 and an equilibrium level of GDP at YP, or full potential GDP, where we're operating at the natural rate of unemployment of 5%. And we'll remember that the natural rate is the sum of structural, frictional, and seasonal unemployment. In graph A, we have the short-run Phillips curve intersecting with the long-run Phillips curve at point A, illustrating unemployment at its natural rate of about 5% and perhaps a price level or an inflation rate of about 2%. Right? So the central bank is happy because they're hitting their target rate of inflation, which for most nations is about 2%, is an acceptable level of inflation or an ideal level of inflation per year. So let's go into a deflationary gap. We know that aggregate demand equals consumption spending plus investment spending plus government spending plus exports minus imports, or net exports. And we're going to use the recent example of the COVID pandemic, nations going into lockdown in March of 2020. That caused a restriction in households' ability to spend into the economy because they were locked at home, not consuming as much as they would normally. And so we would see consumption spending falling. And because households are spending less, firms are seeing that their revenue is falling, and they will be unlikely to borrow and invest in new capital resources to expand their business. So we see investment spending also falling. So that causes aggregate demand to decrease. So we'll have it shift in from 81 to 82. And as a result of the fall in aggregate demand, we see that the quantity of aggregate supply is decreasing along the short-run aggregate supply curve from points A to the new equilibrium of point B. And as firms reduce their quantity of aggregate supply, they're going to begin to fire excess resources like labor to minimize their costs, and that will lead to an increase in unemployment. So here we see real GDP is decreasing from YP to Y recession. And we see an increase in unemployment. Let's just assume that it rises from 5% to 10%. And we also see that the price level is falling from PL1 to PL2, and because aggregate demand has decreased, it's led to a fall in the price level. That is what we call bad deflation. Okay? How would that translate on the short-run Phillips curve? Well, unemployment is increasing. We see that going from 5 to 10%. Here we're measuring unemployment going from 0 onwards, so 10% would have to be somewhere at this point. Okay, so we see that we're moving along the short-run Phillips curve from point A to point B, illustrating that we have rising unemployment from 5 to 10%. And because there's decreased aggregate demand and decreased spending into the economy, aggregate demand is falling, thus the price level is falling. Thus, we would see inflation also falling from perhaps 1% to, from 2% to 1% inflation. Okay? So here we can see how these two graphs are related to each other. Aggregate demand decreases, there's a decrease in the quantity of aggregate supply, firms begin to fire labor to minimize their costs. That causes unemployment to rise from 5 to 10%. Thus, on the short-run Phillips curve, we see an increase in unemployment and a fall in inflation, a degree of disinflation. We're going to assume that, and this is not the case in the in the developed world due to certain government interventions such as minimum wage legislation, labor contracts, worker or union resistance to wage cuts, employer resistance to wage cuts because they don't want to lower worker morale and productivity. But we're going to assume that that's not the case. We're going to assume that firms do have the ability to reduce wages and that households in their desperation in being unemployed wanted to offer their resources at a lower level are leading to wages falling, perhaps rent for land falling, interest for capital falling. And so we're just going to assume perhaps that unemployed labor is willing to work for less, and so wages falls, and that will cause the cost of production to fall, so the SRS curve will shift outward. Okay? So here we'll have cost of production decreasing from SRS1 to SRS2 as a result of households willing to lower wages or work for a lower wage, which will reduce the cost of production for firms. So the SRS curve shifts out. And because firms are able to employ resources at a lower cost, employing labor in this case, that will enable them to employ more labor since labor is cheaper to hire. And because labor is cheaper to hire, they can also price their outputs at a lower price level. So the price level begins to fall from PL2 to PL3, which is considered good deflation. When the SRAS curve shifts out, when cost of production falls, economists would deem that as good deflation. And since there's a fall in wages, it's matching the fall in the price of goods and services on average within the economy. And as the price level falls from PL2 to PL3, the quantity of aggregate demand is increasing, incentivizing firms to also hire more labor. And so unemployment falls, it falls from 10% back to the natural rate of 5%. And we're right back at full employment. And the economy is right back where it kind of started. The only difference is that it's just operating at a lower price level. But in theory, that's okay because wages have fallen, perhaps rent, interest has fallen, profits have fallen for resources, but it's matching the lower prices of goods and services. What would happen here in the Phillips curve graph? Well, if the SRAS curve is shifting out, then the short-run Phillips curve would be shifting in. So we're going to see that the Phillips curve is going to shift inward as so from short run Phillips curve 1 SRPC1 to SRPC, SRPC2. Why? Well, remember that we have a fall in the price level, so we have to illustrate that. There has to be continued fall in the price level, but we go back to full employment at 5%. So we're going from point A to point B, and then it jumps down to point C. And so here we see that the price level has fallen yet again, and the inflation rate has also decreased. Let's assume that it just goes down to maybe 0.5%, right? So another level of disinflation in the economy, but we're right back at full employment. Okay, and that's how these two graphs relate to each other. So let's go ahead and analyze this as we would for a paper exam for the IB. As can be seen, we have two graphs. Graph A is illustrating the short-run Phillips curve and the long-run Phillips curve. On the x-axis, we're measuring unemployment. On the y-axis, we're measuring inflation. The long-run Phillips curve is perfectly inelastic at the natural rate of unemployment, which is 5%. And we have a downward sloping short-run Phillips curve that assumes that there's a negative relationship between unemployment and inflation. In graph B, we're using the monetarist model. We're measuring real GDP on the x-axis and the price level on the y-axis. We have a perfectly inelastic long-run aggregate supply curve illustrating the maximum amount of output that can be produced when inputs are employed. We have a downward aggregate demand curve labeled 81 and an upward sloping short-run aggregate supply curve labeled SRAS1. In graph B, where LRAS, perhaps let's make a few little notes, right? Where LRAS1 equals SRAS1, which is equal to aggregate demand, provides an equilibrium at point A with an equilibrium price level at PL1 and an equilibrium level of real GDP at YP, or full potential GDP. Full potential GDP provides full employment at the natural rate of unemployment at 5%. In graph A, that translates to an intersection between the long-run Phillips curve, which is equal to the short-run Phillips curve, at point A, providing an inflation rate of 2% and an unemployment rate at 5%, again, at that natural rate of unemployment. As a result of the COVID lockdown beginning in March 2020 for many developed nations, households were restricted from going out and consuming, so there was a reduction in consumption spending, and as a result of the reduction in consumption spending, firms saw a decrease in revenue, thus they were unlikely to borrow and invest or spend into the economy. So investment spending also falling. That caused aggregate demand to decrease from 81 to 82, establishing a new equilibrium where 82 equals the short-run aggregate supply curve, providing an equilibrium point at B with an equilibrium price level at PL2 and real GDP at Y recession. So we see real GDP decreasing, quantities of outputs decreasing in the economy from YP to Y recession, and the price level falling from PL1 to PL2, which is bad deflation. In the short-run Phillips curve, that translates to a movement along the short-run Phillips curve from point A to point B, where we see unemployment rising from 5 to 10% and inflation decreasing from 2 to 1%. So we have disinflation in the economy. Unemployment is rising as a result of firms decreasing their quantity of aggregate supply from point A to point B, which is leading to the rising unemployment. As a result of the economy operating in recession and households having unemployed resources, households in their desperation are willing to work for less. So we will assume that wages begin to fall. And since wages or labor is a cost to firms in terms of their production, if wages fall, then their short-run aggregate supply curve starts to fall. So SRS begins to shift out as resources become cheaper for firms to employ, SRAS1 to SRAS2 intersecting with 82 and LRAS1 at point C provides a price level at PL3, thus continued deflation. But in this case, it's good deflation because the SRAS curve has shifted out. And because resources are cheaper to employ, firms are incentivized to employ those cheap resources. Thus, unemployment falls from 10% to 5%. And as output prices fall to PL3, households begin to increase the quantity of their aggregate demand from point B to point C. And we're right back at full employment at point C. In terms of the short-run Phillips curve, when the SRAS curve shifts outward, the short-run Phillips curve shifts inward from SRPC1 to SRPC2, establishing a new equilibrium at point C, where SRPC2 equals LRPC, providing a reduced level of inflation of 0.5%, so there's continued disinflation in the economy, but unemployment falling from 10 back to 5%, or the natural rate of unemployment. Okay, so that is the monetarist model working with the short run and long run Phillips curve. In this scenario, looking at a deflationary gap, the creation and elimination of a deflationary gap, whereas scenario one looked at the creation and elimination of an inflationary gap. And that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, and please don't forget to subscribe and like. Thank you so much.